This week on Arts Insight, two become one.
I'm not trying to be surreal or trying to be anything other than tell a story. We're 100%, in my opinion, story-driven.
How a jeweler transforms cosmic rock.
These are all the ways in which a lot of cultures represent the way they see the sky.
The colors of the Southwest.
You have to be organized, you have to be dedicated, you have to be detailed.
And a vision of brotherhood.
It really showcases that everyone can come together, everyone can join as brothers, everyone can join as family and still come together and sing.
I'm Ernie Manous, and it's time to get Arts Insight. Welcome to Arts Insight. We're excited because today we're at Lawndale Arts Center for the big show. Everywhere we turn, there's new art. And soon we'll preview what you can expect to see this year. But first, it's a collaboration that pushes the boundaries of media. One Houston-based duo couldn't be more opposite, but together they form a perfect union.
I think when people walk in and see our work for the first time, they don't always necessarily understand who does what. I get a lot of credit sometimes for being a more part of these big pieces, but really, I mean, I'm a photographer and I'm an artist, but a lot of these, these pieces start with a photograph and then they turn into, big built-out frames and, that involve sculptures and moving parts and mechanics. I think when people see our stuff, they're looking at it and they know that it's collaborative. Most of the time, I think they're trying to figure out, what am I looking at? Is that a photograph or is that a drawing? This is a friend of mine who I've been wanting to photograph for a very long time. It's when she brought this amazing handmade dress. I just loved it, and so that was, the whole image started with that dress and it was built from there.
I'm not trying to be surreal or trying to be anything other than tell a story. We're 100%, in my opinion, story-driven. So when you look at any of our work, and if you ever have the time to ask us what it's about, you'll really get a mouthful and a mindful of whatever that image is about. The meaning behind this whole piece is energy. So energy can be directed towards each other, and if you were to position them opposite, we're not trying to change the world with our art, we're just kind of trying to tell our story of what we're experiencing, even past and the present and the future. And so now the energy is directed away from each other. The odds of us meeting and the odds of her being an amazing photographer and the odds of me being a weirdo that can put things together for story's sake is a beautiful thing, and it's 100% natural.
I would find a great kid with a great personality and an imagination that liked to go play, and we would go and we would just shoot and have fun. And it was very about creating a world, an imaginary world with these kids, and then that was where the photos came from. That was the process for me. And then I would just simply give him those characters. It's changed a lot over the years, and now it's turned into more custom work, which I really like. People who are interested in being photographed to then become part of the work.
This is a piece about time. Tick, tock, tick. I do everything in the spectrum of what fine art is. Sculpting, painting, we write music, we make music. We do everything that we have learned up until this point, after all these years, has basically been developed to make film, to make motion pictures, motion art. And so when you see one of my sculptures and when you see one of Katie's pieces of still frame photography, especially the black and whites, what you're looking at is the early developments of a film. So when you start to put those two things together, you have a background, you have a story, you have a place, and you have a person, and you have a reason for him to be there or her to be there. And that's where we've come from, and that's where we're going all at the same time.
So even though I had my digital camera and most of my hired gigs I shoot digital, it was a while before I was able to give up the darkroom and that process but it really took the addition of the video, because it's all so much easier and you have so many more options. It really has helped our collaboration move into the digital arts.
Pull the string, the hands will come out and they'll go.
It's just symbolism, and it's what the viewer can get from it, really. I just tried to feed them good, put good food out there for them to take in. There has to be an element of mystery, or it's not interesting to me. There has to be something to be revealed, but I think the fun part of looking at art is getting to find that, or finding it for yourself.
We have no plans other than the plan to be in love and to make art. It's just kind of the natural occurrence of life.
See more of their work at patrickmedrano.com. We're back at the Lawndale Art Center, where hundreds of artists submitted their work for consideration in the annual exhibition known as The Big Show. Joining us now is the center's executive director, Stephanie Mitchell. Hello, Stephanie.
Hello, Ernie.
So this is new to you.
Yes, it is.
It's your first big show.
It is my first big show. I've been at Lawndale for about 10 months, and I was thrilled that this year we had so many applicants. We actually had 517 artists apply to the big show.
I'm always curious when you do something like that and you have a giant open for people to submit things. Do you notice trends in what's being submitted that then tells you something about the art community in which we live?
You know, I believe that is the case. This show has been mounted by Lawndale for 32 years. It was first initiated over at our original space in the East End in 1984. And over the course of 32 years, you're going to see a lot of different themes emerge. Now, one of the special aspects of this show is that we bring in a juror to jury the selection. So what is teased out is going to be very specific to their interests and their particular aesthetic.
Right.
Now, I will say in my research, I've noticed that this show is always very painting heavy and sculpture heavy. Now, I think that is due to, one, painting being a very popular medium, but for decades, individuals would bring their works into Lawndale for the juror to go through in person.
Right.
And paintings tend to be relatively easy to transport versus video, I guess, you've got a DVD or whatnot. But versus sculpture, we've got a terrific little sculpture selection
You have
here.
everything, even a pizza.
We do have a pizza.
Which I thought was fun. That's what I think is so exciting about the show, is the eclectic nature of it every year. So tell me who's jurying this year.
So this year we had two jurors, Tina Kukielski, who is the executive director of Art21 in New York City, and Absara DeQuinzio, who's the curator of modern and contemporary art, and Phyllis C. Wattis, matrix curator at the Berkeley Art Museum and Pacific Film Archive.
Wow,
That's
those
her
are some
official
titles.
title. I know, and I got it right.
When folks come in here and look around, what would you want to make sure they don't miss?
Well, we've got 105 objects on view. I think what is terrific is that the curators teased out some themes. We've got on this wall behind you a black and white graphic impulse wall, if you will. Behind me, we've got a lot of geometric abstraction. Upstairs, we've got photography and video. And in the front, we've got a figurative gallery. So there's really something for everyone, only to say you shouldn't miss anything in the show.
Okay, a lot of artists watch our show. They want to know, we want to get involved in the big show next year. What do they do?
Go online to our website, lawndaleartcenter.org, and look for our call for entries in about 3 to 4 months. And we waived the submission fees this year, and I plan to do that again next year.
Oh, wow. So that's really great for artists.
It is great for artists. We had the largest groups apply in recent history, 517.
Wow, that's wonderful. Well, I look forward to seeing what you're going to bring. Any plans for the center over your reign of power?
Well, our programming is booked through the spring, so we've got a lot of public programs that are in the works, and you'll just have to stay tuned. Check our website.
Well, we
Give
will.
us a call.
Okay. Thank you very much, Stephanie.
Thanks.
Find out more at lawndaleartcenter.org. Now, an artist draws inspiration from a combination of a fond childhood memory and outer space. The result? Her jewelry line targets a different type of accessory lover.
I like to make sure that the pieces are facing out and slightly up, so as people walk by, they see the image. It's not just a ring, it's a ring of stars. was 5 years old when I came here the first time, which was a million years ago, and that set my heart here. I remember it vividly. And then when I was a very young teenager and I was going to school in East Los Angeles, I was a little discouraged with life, and I came up here on another field trip, and I thought, you know, there are elevated people, there's elevated thoughts, and there's an elevated institution, and it's right here. And it gave me that kind of feeling. So since that time, I have been associated with what this building does for people. Can someone have a conversation? This is a place to find out, because you can definitely have a good conversation up here. I always like this one too, the Sagittarius with the asters and all around. I think that's, and this is the, you know, the Southern Cross. I thought about a small collection, and as we got closer in the renovation to doing the exhibit design, Dr. Krupp called me and said, "How much jewelry do you have?" I said, "How much do you need?" And he gave me a geometry problem, 175 feet this wide, undulating down in jewelry. And I said, geometry, didn't get a good grade in school, but I'm gonna work on it. And there are about 2,300 pieces in there now. Every year when we clean the jewelry, I add a couple just for piquante's sake. And it's so it's been that kind of a collection. People have given me pieces. I've bought them on every continent but Antarctica. And they have been representing our human association with the sky. These are all the ways in which a lot of cultures represent the way they see the sky. I've seen places where they've had a few pieces of jewelry, but I mean, let's face it, 2,300 is a lot different. At the very beginning, here behind me, you'll see the Big Bang. It's all the smallest pieces, and they're all coming out in a big bang. And that was to just sort of say, this is how it started, this bang from little to big. Then from there on, the main theme is random and chaotic. We have another place that's just nocturnal animals and moons. We have another place that's ringed planets. We have another place that's shooting stars. And at the very end, where human existence represents about that much of the 175-foot line, all of the pieces have human faces. Just to remind us that what we really care about is us. And you know, evolution could do whatever it does, but what we really care about is how did we get here and where do we belong? There are multiple pieces that have meaning for me. One in particular is my mentor on the board, who was also one of the founding board members, Betty Howlett, who was a friend to the Griffiths. Didn't live to see the rebuilding of the observatory, the renovation, but she knew I was going to be doing something with jewelry. So she had a necklace that her mother wore when she sang Carmen in the 1890s in Denver. It's 10 stars, and she asked me if I would please make sure that this went with whatever exhibit she did with jewelry. And for my sake, she was here for the opening, and she's here every day, because that necklace says to me, she got it. She got that this was an important part of understanding our cultural association with the sky. I knew that people were going to get a big kick out of this in a whole lot of ways, but in the main, they would see something that might open their mind to looking up. And for my money and for my heart, looking up from Griffith Observatory is just worth all of that, and giving it to here meant that. It had a lot of association for me of how the public would look at it. There are very, very few things here that were purchased new. Most of them were used, so somebody else wore them too. And that had appeal for me, that this is all very much a people's exhibit. What I want you to do is start at the very end.
You're doing something valuable. People will notice how sparkly and clean and everything it is. It won't be just some dusty exhibit. And it's about doing it for the public, but it's also why these people are members of Friends of the Observatory. They want to do something for the public. They want to do something for the observatory. There's no other place in the world that has an exhibit like this, and we think it has meaning. It's Los Angeles, and we like a show, so that's why we do it. I saw a family here once who sent their kids on a quest to count how many stars were only 4 points, or to find how many 7-pointed stars there were.
And it was fabulous to see people using this in a way to enliven their own kids' thoughts about other things. And that's what this is for. Griffith Observatory is here to give you an idea, to ask other questions, and find out more about looking out.
For more information, visit griffithobservatory.org. Up next, Mary Mirabal devotes herself to recreating the vibrant colors of her home away from home. Her official address may be Tampa, but her heart belongs to the American Southwest.
I'm Mary Mirabal, and I am an artist and work primarily in acrylics. I am not a Florida-style artist. I wasn't born here in Florida. I grew up in Florida my adult life, but I've never felt like this is home. So I don't paint palm trees, and I don't paint, seascapes, but I really love the Southwest, so that's where my paintings lean more towards. It was probably about 25 years ago, our first trip. We've taken many since then. We went to Santa Fe and Albuquerque, just my husband and I. We'd been collecting Native American art for years before we actually made our first trip out west. Dear friends of ours who have a gallery in Naples said, "You've got to get out there." So we finally made the trip, and that's how I fell in love. As soon as we hit the ground and I was surrounded by mountains, I just felt at home. I'm influenced by the mountains, the skies, the colors, the smells, the culture, everything. And so a lot of it translates into the paintings that I do. My biggest influence is Georgia O'Keeffe. Even though my style is not like her style, she was a woman who loved New Mexico, who was not afraid to take chances. She also loved color, loved bold compositions. So I take great inspiration from her art, and she's my muse. And I'm a newbie artist. I've been painting really for less than 2 years. For about 30 years, I was in the corporate world. I was managing offices and vice presidents of company and, having a career, a husband, children, raising a family. So I did not think I had an artistic bone in my body, to be perfectly honest. But I always had a passion to want to try and paint. And so I got up the courage to actually try it and discovered that I had a talent for it. I was 55 when I started painting, and I will be 57 in about 2 weeks. God works in His own time. I truly believe that. And I've often wondered why He chose for me to be in my middle 50s before He showed me this gift. Now that He has unveiled it, I know that I am going to use it to the best ability that I have. Timing is everything, and I think that, the timing that I was given was the timing that was right for me. There are so many wonderful artists out there, and if you do not market yourself, no one's going to find you. So my vast experience in the corporate world has helped me tremendously. You have to be organized, you have to be dedicated, you have to be detailed. All these things that artists typically are not. If you have any inkling that you want to try art, do it. I always had it in the back of my head and I kept pushing it aside because I thought it wasn't practical. But I didn't know the joy I was missing out on. Take some classes, go to some workshops. You might surprise yourself.
To see more, visit marymirabelleart.com. And finally tonight, the Vision Male Ensemble consists of all male vocalists who focus on Motown, jazz, gospel, spiritual, and classical music. But most importantly, the ensemble focuses on supporting each other and other young men through music.
It's something about the male voice when they all come together that everybody takes notice. And it's something about the warmth of the voice. And I think that's why it really just hits everybody.
There's a certain thought that everybody has when they hear you're from Detroit, especially when they hear you're from Detroit and they hear you like to sing, because Detroit is the heart of music.
Vision is the Detroit School of Arts Male Ensemble. And it came about when I first started teaching at DSA. I came in, they had all these girl groups. And I was like, okay, what do the fellas do? And so we decided that all the fellas who were vocal majors would come into one group. And the fellas came up with Vision. And they came up with it, said, because we are what DSA is, but we're also the people who are going to make a difference as we grow older. So our vision is that we're going to be different, and that's how it all came out.
Purpose of Vision is to build up young males in a perfect manner, not a negative. We help young males understand the whole vision of how males are supposed to be, how they're supposed to look, how they're supposed to treat other people as an equal to you, really.
We do a little bit of everything. We do Motown, we do jazz, we do gospel, we do spirituals, we do classical. So we do an array of everything. So wherever we're going, we can hit everybody's need.
Like a bridge on troubled water, I will lay me down.
Vision sings a lot of songs that are focused towards brotherhood. So singing those songs in such a large group of young men, in such a large group of young men that I've grown close with, it's a different feeling. It's not the regular type of feeling you get when you're with probably a project choir and you're singing just random music. It's just the feeling of having your brothers around you and singing with your brothers is magical.
We're brothers forever, best friends through it all. We will stand together through the right and through the wrong.
When they're singing, what do I feel in their voices? For some of them, I hear relief from problems that they may have. From some of them, I hear leadership. I hear a longing to make the world better. I hear some saying, not a longing, but I am going to do it.
When I don't connect and understand the words that we're singing or the piece that we're singing, I won't feel anything because I didn't put anything into it. So once I put something into it, that's when I can start feeling the emotion of the song.
There are so many lessons that I've learned, not only through Vision, but through the opportunities that DSA and Ms. V has put in my life. I've learned to adapt, and I've also learned to work quickly. I've learned so much.
It just amazes me how she could change us. Like, I didn't expect that to happen.
You have to make sure the audience knows what the song is about. Let's try it one more time and over-pronounce the words.
And I came to DSA thinking I was about to be the top guy around the school, and then I heard certain people who are like seniors and they've been through all the education and everything, and I'm just like, wow. And I was like, I want to be like that guy someday. All the knowledge Miss V gives us from her education and how we just bond so well with our in the brotherhood that we share. Sometimes Miss V can work on us personally. Sometimes she'll give information that we can all use, so it can help us in many different ways.
And the I. Ready? And. I had one young man who has never sung a solo, and in class you could barely hear him. When we did the Shoshaloza, this short one, that was his first solo, and I said, sing it. He looked at me like, what? I said, sing it. He's like, and finally he opened up, and I think it frightened himself because this big voice came out, and he was like, wow. So now he's like, okay, I can do this now.
It can be a big change, it can be a small change. The big changes is the attitude they have, their first day in Vision. It'll change because they see whole different personalities all inside the group, and then they'll burst out and show their side of their color, and so it blends in with everybody else, and they feel home.
Being able to perform different music and have it interpreted 40 different types of ways and have each person sing it from their personal standpoint and personal point of view, it really showcases that everyone can come together, everyone can join as brothers, everyone can join as family and still come together and sing. And it shows the best of the best in Detroit, I feel, because I love my brothers.
Brothers forever, best friends through it all.
For more information, visit the Detroit School of Arts website. And that does it for this edition of Arts Insight. For all of us here at Houston Public Media, including my friend with the axe, I'm Ernie Manous. Thanks for watching, and have a great week.